Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with the bonus presentation I'd promised you that looks at 3 examples of the League's peacekeeping work in the 1920s that you might not be so familiar with. And I'm going to repeat the 3 things for you to think about in looking at the League's peacekeeping work. Was there a peaceful conclusion? Did the League impose its authority? And did the League meet its aims? And again, I'll point out that these last 2 points weren't always the case, even though there might otherwise have been a satisfactory conclusion. And I'll also continue including a modern picture of the places where the crises unfolded. But in this presentation, there's one picture that stands out as being very different from the rest. Actually, I used the picture on the closing slide of my first presentation on the League's work in the 1920s. See if you can spot it, and if you understand why it's the way it is. The first lesser-known crisis we'll look at is one in which the League did quite well, the Albanian dispute with Yugoslavia in 1921. In Paris, in January 1920, the British, French and Greek delegates at the Paris Peace Conference agreed to divide Albania between Yugoslavia, Greece and Italy. The outraged Albanians threatened war, and President Wilson sided with them, blocked the manoeuvrings in Paris, and so opened the path to Albanian independence. However, the Albanians still had to force the Italian occupying army to leave, while at the same time there had also been Serbian incursions into their territory. Then, in November 1921, Yugoslav forces invaded Albania. It was at this point that the League intervened by sending a commission to investigate. The commission ruled that the Yugoslav forces had to withdraw, and Yugoslavia had to recognize Albania's borders, which it grudgingly did. However, the League was soon to get into a right old mess in another lesser-known dispute. Memel, the furthest strip of East Prussia, was put in the control of the Entente powers and their allies, with the French handed responsibility for its administration. A special commission was set up towards the end of 1922 to decide on its long-term future. It seemed to be leaning towards making Memel a free city, but local Lithuanians in the city and its surrounds, the region was known as Memelland, which sounds like something from a little kid's book, supported by volunteers from Lithuania itself, seized control of the city, and in January 1923 declared that they were going to make it an autonomous region within Lithuania. And though Britain and France protested to the Lithuanian government, they were undermined by the Conference of Ambassadors, who supported the Lithuanians' move. And so Lithuania gained Memel. So again, we see the Conference of Ambassadors undermining the League's authority. A year later, in 1924, Britain and Turkey got involved in a dispute over the territorial ownership of Mosul, a matter left unresolved by the Treaty of Lausanne, which was itself a revision of the Treaty of Sèvres. And again, this is another issue not always covered in your textbooks. Britain made it an issue between Turkey and Iraq, over which Britain had mandated control, and the League set up another commission to look into the matter. It recommended that Mosul should remain a part of Iraq. Turkey at first didn't accept the ruling and vowed to prevent its implementation by force if necessary, and the matter was not ended until 1926 when the Frontier Treaty was signed. Turkey accepted its loss, whilst Iraq agreed to give Turkey 10% of Mosul's oil profits for the next 25 years. So, I hope you've learned something new from this presentation. These are 3 very real examples of the League's work that, as I've already said, are not always referred to in textbooks. But they are absolutely legitimate examples for you to use. And whenever you have an opportunity to make your work stand out, why not take it? I think it's been a good example of the extra detail I have in my ebooks. Just a little hint that you might find my books useful. Something else for you to think about. But as always, I do thank you for listening. But before I go, did you spot the picture that stands out as being very different from the rest? If you didn't, here it is again. Mosul, which of course has suffered badly, so badly, from fighting during the Syrian war. Cheers.